Hello, Warren.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Never better.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to visit a little bit. You know, we've got another important graduation coming up, kind of a unusual time that our students are graduating in, but they're excited to be finishing their undergraduate and graduate degrees with your alma mater. You were here, Warren, in the late 1940s, early 1950s, and graduated in the class of 1951. And I know the university has had a big impact on you and on your life. So you might just start out by saying what are some of your best memories of your time at the University of Nebraska?
I enjoyed every minute of it at Nebraska. I mean, I don't think they could quite believe it when, after 2 years at the Wharton School at Pennsylvania, I said, I want to transfer to Nebraska. And I came back, and the education I received at Lincoln, Wharton had this big reputation, but I had terrific professors there. They not only imparted knowledge to me, but just the rapport and feeling I had with them. And I would say this to this current year's class: I would love to trade places with any of you. I mean, they feel they're going out into an uncertain world and all of that, but there's never been a better time.
Yeah. Is there, Warren, is there a particular professor that you might fondly recall from that time when you were a student here in the College of Business?
Well, there were two of them that I really, not only did I learn a whole lot from, but I just had a good time with. And I've always liked accounting, and I'd taken a couple of courses probably at Wharton before I came. But Ray Dean was the best you'll ever see. And accounting is the language of business, and it made me proficient at something that was absolutely vital for the rest of my life. And I had the edge on lots of business school grads around the country because I had Ray as a teacher. And of course, Doc Elliott's class was absolutely fascinating. He was probably the most entertaining teacher, while at the same time delivering important ideas to him. Those two particularly stand out in my mind, but I would say this: there wasn't a teacher I had there that I really didn't feel good about.
So, Warren, I believe it's true that your parents met here at the University of Nebraska. And what were their majors, and how did they come to meet, if you don't mind telling that story?
Yeah, no, I owe my existence to the University of Nebraska. I mean, it doesn't get much more fundamental than that. Yeah. No, my dad was at the Daily Nebraskan, and he was editor at one point, and my mother actually, her father went to the university as well, but he had a small paper in West Point, and she came to Lincoln, and she was very interested in math, but she also went in to get a job as a reporter at the Daily Nebraska, and then met my dad, and that was a lucky day for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A group of students from the university who came to an investing, a little get-together I have with students a few years ago, they brought me the nicest book in the world they could have given me. I never would have dreamt of it. And it had the front pages of the Daily Nebraskan for that period.
Yeah.
For my dad. I've gotten a lot of nice gifts in my life, but I don't think I've ever gotten a nicer one than that. Now, my dad told me story after story after story about university days at Lincoln.
So, Warren, you mentioned that you'd love to trade places with our graduates today, that even though this is kind of a strange time, but what advice would you give to our graduates in general today? What might you say to them?
Yeah, and I would give them the same advice at any time, that you want to look for the job in life that you would take if you didn't need a job. I mean, somewhere out there, you'll find the right. You won't necessarily find it on your first job. I mean, you got to make a living too. Mm-hmm. But don't settle for anything eventually that's less than working for a company you admire or people you admire, and really the job, if they had no need for the money, it's still the job that you jump out of bed for in the morning. And I've been lucky enough to have one like that, and I can tell you that there's just nothing like that. It doesn't work anymore. It's actually something that you look forward to every day, and you won't necessarily find it the day you get out, but it is out there, and they should look for that, and they should be prepared for it, so that the person they're looking to hire them wants to hire them. And I would say that's what's very important, and that is developing communication skills. I mean, you've got to be able to write well, and you've got to be able to talk well, and just fill your head. I mean, it is such a wonderful time in life to have every day end up knowing a lot of things that you didn't know the day before. And the students I've seen from Lincoln, I mean, they're just outstanding. I mean, that makes me very encouraged about the world. It makes me very, very bullish on the world. They're going to face different circumstances all through their lives. I mean, they're going to get, you just think of the surprises in my life, whether it was the Great Depression or World War II, or, it just goes up and down. But at the end, you've got a winning hand. I was so lucky to be born in the United States, and I was lucky to be born in Nebraska. I was lucky to have the parents I had, and I was lucky to get the education I got. And you go out with a winning hand. Now, that doesn't mean that every single day is perfect. The world isn't that way. But try to think of another country where you'd rather be. Try to think of another era in which you would rather exist. I don't think you can do it. I mean, the opportunities, what they're going to see in their lifetimes, too. I mean, it's a marvelous life ahead of them, and you're going to have vicissitudes, and, you have sometimes you have health problems in life or something of that sort. But there is nobody I would rather be than a young person graduating from the University of Nebraska today.
Well, I'm sure they're glad to hear that too, Warren. Our students have a lot of years ahead of them, and I heard you say just a minute ago about cram as much knowledge as you can in every day in your learning. What's your best advice for our graduates on how to keep learning throughout their life?
Well, there's nothing that beats reading, and you want to have an inquisitive mind. And people say to me sometimes, if you could only have lunch with one person living or dead, who would you pick and all that? Well, the truth is, by reading, you can have lunch with Ben Franklin, or every great personality in the history of the world. You can, in fact, have a very long lunch with, and the luxury of having the array of ideas that you can be exposed to through reading. So one of the families said one time I was a book with legs, basically, and it's fun to learn. It's fun to learn, and you're off to this great start. You probably made friendships, during your life there at school. You've learned the possibilities of this world, and just keep going.
So, Warren, as you look back over these many decades of your professional career, what advice would you give to our graduates today for measuring success? Measuring it in business, measuring it professionally, measuring it in life?
That's the ultimate question, and I've known, by the age of 90, believe me, I've known a lot of people who got very rich and their lives were not successes. I've known people who very famous in their activities, not successes. I have never known anybody who got to the age of 70 or so and had all of the people love him or her that they wanted to have in that position that ever felt like anything but a success. If your children, if your spouse, if your co-workers, if those people at age 65 or 70, having seen what you do with them over a lifetime, if you have the love of those people, you are a success. I've never seen anybody that felt anything but a success if they had it, and I've seen loads of people who had maybe more talent, more money, more fame, but if they didn't have that it was very hollow.
Well said, Warren. Well said. Sage wisdom for our graduates of 2020 from our most famous alum at the University of Nebraska, Mr. Warren Buffett. Thank you, Warren, for being with us. Appreciate your words of wisdom for our graduates today.